The steam from the train rises in the horizon. If I falter now, Anders might be taken away from me forever. And just like that, it all ended. I ran and ran, but running only moves you forward. It cannot change the past. Eventually, a pair of local farmers took me in and hid me from the Nazis. The shock of Anders's death filled my waking hours. I had been so close to saving him. I kept thinking about how we had planned our future together, and how our dreams had been snuffed out in an instant. If only I had more time. If I had just done things differently. Could he still be here with me? Months passed, and on the 4th of May, Denmark was liberated from its German occupiers. But the war did not end quietly like I had hoped. There was a maelstrom of activity as Nazi collaborators were put into camps, snitches were executed by the resistance, and others were put on trial for treason. But in time, life began to return to its familiar patterns. I went back home. The house had been searched, though it was otherwise as Anders and I had left it. Once I had cleared away the mess, it almost felt like no time had passed at all, like it was all a bad dream. But in all the nooks and crannies, the ghosts of the past were waiting for me to let down my guard, lest I forgot what happened and who I had lost. I always assumed Leva would return to the big city after the war. But every now and then I see her wandering the streets of Tinglev, revisiting the sites of her blunders. She mumbles to herself, as though haunted by her failures, imagining what could have been. Without an enemy to fight, she's lost her purpose. I cannot help but feel pity towards her. After he escaped from the train station, Peter had seemingly vanished into thin air. I often found myself wondering what had happened to him, until one day I heard a torrent of profanity from behind me. I couldn't help but smile as I turned to see Peter, haggard but alive. He had returned to Tinglev and was moving a load of car parts to his auto shop. You would have thought the tools had been Nazis from the way he swore while fumbling with them. Stahl died in the snow, unable to move beyond the ideology that had ensnared him for so many years. He remained a willing servant to his narrow, pitiful worldview until the very end. But at least we kept him from unleashing his full wrath upon our town. We were able to stop him, and others were able to stop Hitler. But we cannot forget this horrid war. We must never let something like this happen again. To me, Wolfgang always seemed like he was from a different time. It's probably what attracted Margit. But despite his knightly ideals, he didn't get to join his comrades and die a noble warrior's death at the front. Instead, he died in a flurry of confusion. Deep down, I felt that he was more driven by tradition than hate. But it's a pity that he chose to serve such a vile empire. I hope that Margit can recover from the loss. She only saw the best in him. A few weeks after the liberation, I received a letter in the mail from Esther. She and Sophia had made it to Sweden, where they'd been living a quiet life since their escape. Esther offered me a place to stay should I ever wish to visit. But the paper seemed flecked with tears in the places where she wrote about the help I gave them. I'm glad I was able to do at least that much. I cannot claim to fully understand Reinhard. He was a selfish crook, indifferent to the harm his actions caused. But he was also smart. He was careful. He didn't rush headlong into danger unless there was a profit to be made. His actions at the station will always confound me. What made him so rash, so jittery, and so reckless? I don't know what happened to him after his arrest, But given how the Nazis treated their prisoners, I cannot imagine that there was a pleasant end to his journey. Olgert Vestergaard requested a house call today. He was complaining about chest pains, but his heart sounded perfectly healthy. I think his pain stems from something entirely different. Something that gigantic fortune of his can never cure. He was recently given a small fine of 2,000 crowns for collaborating with the occupation. But none of his ill-gotten lands were given back to the poor farmers. None of his factories were shuttered. Nothing was confiscated. He will barely feel that fine, and the people he hurt will never see one bit of it. I miss Margit. All I have now is our correspondence. She cut all ties with her father and moved up north to Randers. It seems like the big city suits her, and she even writes short stories for a local magazine. Her stories are tinged with melancholy, but I'm happy to see her doing so well. I talked to Pastor Jacob at church this Sunday. He was in his element, gossiping with both Danes and Germans alike, and asking me for medical advice about ailments he doesn't suffer from. I suppose some things never change. Following the death of his father, Heinrich and his mother left Tinglev and returned to their hometown in Germany. According to local gossip, Heinrich made quite a stir at the station when he refused to heil at one of the Wehrmacht guards. I have received no news of the boy since, but I hope he's staying out of trouble. If he can change, then maybe others can too. I saw Charlotte at the market today. The other villagers acted like she wasn't there, and she could barely get the attention of the merchants. I couldn't bring myself to speak with someone who had worked so closely with the occupation, at least not yet. I walked to the other side of the square, and I think she saw me. The next time I spotted her, she was leaving the market, her bag only half full. I visited the inn last Thursday. Mida was there, standing behind the bar and looking like her usual self. She keeps busy, serving beer and bantering with the locals. But every so often, I catch her staring blankly at the walls. These spells never last for long, but it seems her time inside the camps has left a mark. I wonder how long it will linger. For some people, the scars might remain forever. Harold was up and about when I came to the clinic this morning, and the front door was open for business. It seems that some things can change. However, he refused to give a German-speaking woman ointment for her rash. I suppose other things never change. At least, he doesn't stop me from helping whomever I see fit. After the war, Papa was interned at the Forhus camp, along with many other fathers in the German minority who had volunteered to help the occupiers. I visit him as often as I can. He seems to earnestly regret his actions and the harm they did to our family. In time, I hope that we might come to understand each other better. I pray that he will soon be released. There was no way to escape the war unscathed, but I did what I could to stem the bleeding. I helped those I could, but I would forever wonder if there was more I should have done, more people I could have saved. The wages of war were heartache and regret, but at least there was a brighter future on the horizon.